Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome your 2022 Missouri Realtors President, John Mayfield.
Well, good afternoon, and thank you so much for coming. Are you having a good time at the conference? All right. And hopefully you've downloaded the app. If you haven't, go to the App Store or Google Play Store, search for Missouri Realtors. To get to the Winter Business Conference, it's kind of different. You have to go down to the bottom right and click More, and then click on Events, and then click the Winter Business Conference, and then it'll take you right into the sessions and all of the information. So, in fact, if you do that, Paul Smith, our speaker today, actually has a handout for you, and you have a hard copy, but we also have a digital version of that for you in the app that you can download. I want to first of all do something that Janet started last year, and I thought it was the coolest thing. And that is, I'd like for all of our veterans, if you're a veteran, I'd like for you to come on up to the stage with me right now, on stage. So all veterans, if you would, come up on this stage. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Appreciate you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Good. How you doing, man?
Make sure I thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, now I'd like for us to please turn your attention to the back of the room as we welcome the St. Louis Police Department Color Guard for the presentation of colors.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we held at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight, o'er the ramparts we watch, were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you to our veterans. Let's give them a round of applause. And thank you to the St. Louis Police Department Color Guard. And by the way, that was Kiana Carruthers, who's a newly licensed real estate agent. She is a realtor, and she told me, she said, I'm a realtor, and so I was so happy that she sang our national anthem for us. So. And again, thanks to our veterans for joining me on the stage. So I'd like to introduce your 2022 leadership team. Media past president, Janet Judd, who's, I feel like sometimes, you know, I'm in a track meet and we're doing the pole vault and like she just keeps going up higher and it's like, you mean I gotta jump that high? But she's done a great job, so thank you, Janet. And Andrea Sheridan, my president-elect, so I have such an amazing leadership team. They're just the sweetest people, and we get along really good. And Derek Schriever, that he and I have been friends for a long time, and so thanks to my leadership team, I am just honored to work with you. And of course, we have John Seabree, our CEO. He would be safe and warm if he were in LA, but he's not there yet. That's California dreaming, okay? So anyway, but you know, John's done such an amazing job for us, and I mean, it's going to be a tough act to follow. My theme is it's your story, and like any good story, you read and then all of a sudden it's like, why are they getting rid of this character, you know? And that's kind of the way I feel, but then hopefully we'll bring a new character in that he won't be like, or he or she won't be like John. We don't know who that will be, but we know John's going to do a great job in California. So, and then I would like my executive committee to please stand to be recognized. So they're right down here. Thank you so much. I'm sure we have some special guests in the room as well. How about all of our past state presidents that are in the room to stand? So if you've been a past... yeah. Thank you. You know, that's the one thing that I'm so impressed with about our association is we have presidents who come and get involved and become president, but they still stay involved, and I appreciate that, and many dear friends. And I'm sure we have some national, do we have any nationals, Elizabeth or Richard in the room? I don't know if they're here yet or if they're watching live stream. I should have said hi to the live stream folks, and I forgot, so if you're watching by live stream, thank you, we appreciate that, and so thank you for that. In addition to being a past state president, help me congratulate Brenda Oliver. She's our Region 9 RVP. And so we have the Region 9 conference coming up, and you can find out more about that on the Missouri Realtors website, but it's coming up at Big Cedar, and Brenda's got really a great program lined up for us, and so excited about that. Be sure and hashtag Mo Realtors if you want to post things, and put on there, it's your story too, hashtag it's your story. So I've done a few of those. It's always interesting to see who else is hashtagging things like that. But, and it's also important that we acknowledge that we're learning, working, and organizing this week for our traditional ancestral territory of many Native people, including Osage, Kaskaskia, and Kickapoo. So want to kind of keep that and remember them. And we have awards programs that are going to immediately follow our speaker, so stay in here. We've got some really cool things planned after the speaker. But I'm so excited to introduce to you Paul Smith. I read this book called Lead with a Story, and I was like so mesmerized by this book. It was just a great book. And when I had the opportunity to help find someone, I wanted Paul to come because he has such an extensive background in storytelling. He is one of the world's leading experts on organizational storytelling. He's one of Inc. magazine's top 100 leadership speakers, a storytelling coach, and an author of the number one Amazon bestsellers, Lead with a Story and Sell with a Story. And he just finished 2 books this last year, and one of those sounds very intriguing, and he said it's probably one of his favorite works to date, so I'm sure he'll tell us more about that. Former executive at the Procter & Gamble Company and a consultant with Accenture prior to that. They took phonics out of school when I was a kid, so that's... but as part of his research on the effectiveness of storytelling, Paul has personally interviewed over 300 CEOs and executives in 25 countries, documented over 3,000 individual business stories that has allowed him to reverse engineer what works in storytelling and what doesn't. His work has been featured in the Wall Street Journal, Fast Company, Inc. magazine, Time, Forbes, and Success magazine, among others. I could go on, but please help me welcome Paul Smith. Thank you, Paul. Thanks.
Thank you very much for that, John. Yes, I'm going to be talking about storytelling today, obviously, so let's dive right in. And I want to start by explaining what I mean by storytelling, because that word story and storytelling has gotten a lot of different meanings over the last few years. It doesn't, or at least I don't mean by it, a sales pitch. I don't mean the talking points of your memo. I don't mean the bullet points on your slides in a presentation. I don't mean the main points in the email that you're writing. So I mean something very specific about storytelling. And I mean the old school definition of a story. A story is a narrative about something that happened to someone. Okay, as such, there's going to be a time, a place, a main character. That main character is going to have a goal of some kind. There'll probably be someone or something getting in the way of that goal, you know, an obstacle or a villain, if you will. And there'll be events that transpire along the way and hopefully resolve themselves nicely in the end. Okay, so that's what I mean by a story. And these stories are used, that we can use them at work for leadership purposes, as John was mentioning, for sales and marketing purposes, as many of you will want to use them, and for many other purposes. And so let me give you an example, just so you know the kind of thing that I'm talking about. And this was one that actually happened to me personally. So a few summers ago, my wife and I were at Coney Island at an art fair, and she was looking for a picture for our son's bathroom at home. So we were going booth to booth to booth, and we get to this one booth of this guy named Chris Guglielmello. Okay, look this guy up. He does these amazing underwater pictures. He's a photographer, sea anemones and coral reefs and sharks and whales and stuff. Anyway, she's flipping through his pictures, and she just gets emotionally attached to this one picture that was, to me, looked about as out of place as a pig in the ocean. And the reason was because it literally was a picture of a pig in the ocean, okay? And I just thought, that is just the craziest thing, right? And now the artist was there himself, so eventually I got a chance to talk. And so, of course, I asked him. I was like, dude, what's with the pig in the ocean, you know? And that's when the magic started. The guy said, oh, yeah, Paul, that was the craziest thing. He said, I took that picture off the coast of this uninhabited island called Big Major K. And he said, apparently what happened was a few years earlier, some local entrepreneur decided to raise a pig farm for bacon, I guess. And he said, and he found out there was this uninhabited island nearby where he could keep the pigs for free. Well, he's no dummy, so he's going to keep them on the free island, right? So he said, but unfortunately, it turns out the only natural vegetation on the island was cactus. Well, guess what? Pigs don't like cactus, right? I wouldn't either. So the entrepreneur wasn't that smart after all, because there was literally nothing for them to eat. Well, fortunately for the pigs and the entrepreneur, a local restaurant owner on a neighboring island was boating his kitchen refuse over to Big Major K every night after closing time and dumping it overboard just to get rid of his kitchen scraps, right? Now, imagine you're one of these hungry pigs, right? You don't normally go in the ocean and you don't swim, but if you get hungry enough, you'll do anything, right? So eventually one pig got brave enough to, you know, seeing this and smelling this food floating out in the ocean to, you know, dog paddle or pig paddle his way out there to get the food, right? Well, first it's one little piggy, then it's two little piggies, then three little piggies, and here it is 3 generations later, and all the pigs on Big Major K can swim. And apparently that's why. And if you go on a Caribbean cruise these days, ask them not to take you to Big Major K, because they don't even call it that anymore. Everybody calls it Pig Island. There's probably, statistically, there's probably 4 or 5% of you in this room that have been there, all right? Now, of course, at that moment, I got my credit card out and I'm like, sold. We'll take it right now, right? Now ask yourself why. Because 2 minutes earlier, that picture was worth nothing to me. In fact, it wasn't even worth the paper it was printed on. It was just a silly picture of a pig in the ocean. But after hearing that story, I had to have it. And why did I have to have it? I had to have it because I love that story, all right? I love hearing the story. I love telling the story. If you come to my house and go to the bathroom, you can hear me tell the story again, right? Because it's up there. I think it's a history lesson, a geography lesson, and an animal psychology lesson all kind of rolled into one. Now, think about how that Chris Guglielmello could have sold me that picture in a more traditional features and benefits sales pitch kind of way. He could have said, look, Paul, there's 3 reasons why you should buy this picture, right? First of all, it's the right size to fit in the bathroom at home. Your wife's already shown me the picture of where it's going to go on the bathroom wall, right? Secondly, notice it's the right color palette to match the decor in your bathroom. And thirdly, it's in the right price range that you've already told me you're willing to spend on this picture. And those are the 3 reasons why you should buy this painting or this picture. And of course, those would be 3 very rational, logical reasons for me to buy that picture. But there were probably dozens of pictures at that whole art fair that met all 3 criteria. But there's only one that had an interesting story attached to it. And that's why that's the one that's hanging on my kid's bathroom at home, right? So at this point, I'm not sure if I was buying a picture with an interesting story attached to it or if I was buying a story with a picture attached to it. But it doesn't matter. I bought it, okay? So when I say a sales story, I mean first of all, a real story about something that happened to someone, not the list of reasons to buy something or, I mean a real story. And that story has to further your sales objective. Okay? It could close the sale like that one did, or it could just get you that first call, or it could just, as long as it moves you along in the sales process, that's a sales story. Okay, so that's what I'm here to talk to you about. Right now, why? Why do I think you should be probably, telling more stories? Now, you notice I already have a math error there. I cut my reasons from 9 back to 6, all right, just to fit my time here today. So here are my top 6 reasons. There's probably dozens more, but why I think you might want to leverage storytelling more than you maybe already are. Okay, first of all, stories help the buyer relax and just listen. It's kind of like, when you were in school and the professor stopped writing formulas on the board and just turned around and told you a story or gave you an example or an anecdote or something. Well, what'd you do? Well, you put down your pencil and you leaned back in your chair and you just listened, right? Because, well, this isn't going to be on the test. This is just a story, right? And that's what you want. You want your audience to just relax and listen to me for a couple of minutes instead of listening by analyzing everything I'm saying, looking to poke holes in all of it and finding the flaws in it, figuring out reasons to not do what I'm telling you to do, which is the way many buyers listen to people who are, whose job it is to sell them something. Stories get people to it kind of gets their defenses down. They just relax, put their pencil down, and just listen. And you want that to happen every once in a while. All right, secondly, storytelling builds relationships. And nobody does business with somebody they don't have a decent relationship with. In fact, there's a wonderful study done in the New York Times a few years ago that asked an interesting question. They asked, what % of people in the world are trustworthy? And the average answer was about 30%, which is really disappointing, right? I mean, it's one of those like, look to your left, look to your right, and one of the 3 of you is trustworthy, and the other 2 are not, So I'll leave it to you to figure out who it is in your row. But the point is, they asked the question a second way. They said, what % of people that you know personally are trustworthy? And the average answer went up to like 90%. And the reason is because we humans naturally distrust people that we don't know. And we naturally trust people that we do know until they give us a reason not to. And telling somebody a personal story about you moves you from the don't know column to the do know column, all right? Your business card won't do that. Your brochures won't do that. Your website won't do that. Telling a personal story about you moves you into that circle of trust, okay? Thirdly, and this is probably most important, I should probably move it up to number 1. Stories help people make decisions, and that is your job, to get people to make a decision, right? And it does so because a lot of the cognitive research that's been done in the last few decades have taught us that human beings don't always make the rational, logical decisions that we'd like to think we do. It turns out, more often than not, we make subconscious, emotional, sometimes irrational decisions in one place in our brain, and then we justify those decisions logically and rationally a few nanoseconds later in a more conscious, rational thinking part of the brain. So we think we've made these rational, logical decisions, but the truth is our emotional, subconscious brain has already decided, and the rest of our brain is just trying to catch up. And it turns out that stories are just uniquely well qualified to reach that emotional, subconscious processing part of the brain. if you want people to make a decision, it turns out you need to talk to both parts of the brain. Stories are going to help you reach the other part that you typically are not going to reach as well. All right, number 4. Stories increase the value of the product you're selling, and the story about Pig Island is a classic example of that, all right? Stories can literally make the thing that you're selling more valuable to people. And there was another wonderful experiment done a few years ago that demonstrates this. The 2 experimenters went to a bunch of flea markets and garage sales, and they bought 100 really cheap items, okay? They spent $129 in total, okay? So a buck, $29 per item, a nutcracker and a piggy bank and, all used stuff. And then they sold all 100 of these items on eBay one at a time. And you all know how eBay works, right? You've got the title of whatever it is, or the picture of whatever it is, and then there's a description. Well, they put a picture, but they didn't put a description. Instead of a description, all they did is they wrote an interesting story about that item. And they made it very clear this is totally fabricated. This is not true. So, this cute little piggy bank, well, once upon a time it was owned by a little girl, and she used to come home every day and put her coins in it. And it was like, and this is totally made up, but please buy our piggy bank, whatever. Anyway, the point is they ended up selling all those items for over $3,000. Okay? And the researchers' conclusion is it was because they had stories attached to them instead of just a description. So like my Pig Island story, it's actually been scientifically demonstrated that people will pay more for something that has an interesting story attached to it. All right, and then 5th and last for me, stories make things more memorable. There's been a number of pieces of research that demonstrate that stories make facts between 6 and 22 times more likely to be remembered if those facts are embedded in a story than if they're just given to people in a list. But you don't have to believe any of the research, because I can prove it to you right now just with this observation. And that is that all of you sitting here right now know that by this time tomorrow, none of you are going to remember this list of 5 things, right? And it's okay. I'm not going to be insulted, right? Every time I give this lecture, I have to look at the list of 5 things, because it's just a list of 5 things or 9 things or 6 things or however many I happen to have on that day, right? But all of you sitting here right now know that by this time tomorrow, you will remember the story of Pig Island, right? And next week and next month and a year from now, every one of you in this room will be able to tell that story and get most of the facts right. But none of you are going to remember this list of 5 things. That's the power of a good story. Okay, now, when? When do I think you should be telling stories, right? And the first answer I'd give you is, it's not all the time. Okay, I'm not such a zealot of storytelling that I think you should do nothing all day long but, telling stories. Okay, that would just be weird, right? If I had to put a number to it, and I will, I'd say 10 to 15% of the time. Okay, so that means out of an hour, if you do the math, I think 6 to 9 minutes out of an hour, you might be telling a story. And when you're in a conversation with somebody about these kind of things. And these stories are only a couple of minutes long, 2 or 3 minutes long. So that means out of an hour, you might tell 2 or 3 2 to 3 minute stories. That's it. That's all you need. They're going to be the most memorable things that you say in that hour. And you don't want to tell stories all the time, but just to give you perspective on this is not something that you have to do constantly. Just throw in a couple of stories into a 1-hour conversation, and that's plenty, okay? Now, specifically what kind of stories do you need to tell? Now, I don't expect anybody to be able to read this from where you are, but this is the thing that John said you've got a handout on, and it's on that app. Okay, there's a list of all 25 of these. So as part of doing the research that he mentioned, interviewing all these people around the world, including a whole lot of salespeople and buyers, professional buyers, okay? There are 25 different type of stories that kind of emerged from that research as these are the most useful stories that sales and marketing people will tell throughout the entire sales process. Now, I'm not suggesting you need all 25 of them, but only you know which ones you need. So I wanted you to have the list, and I've highlighted here the 4 or 5 that I think might be the most important for people in your profession. And these are organized, as you notice, by the kind of the stage of the selling process, from the moment you introduce yourself to someone, to building rapport with them, to making the actual pitch itself, to resolving objections that almost always come up, to closing the sale, even to service after the sale, all right? So the moment you meet somebody is a great opportunity to tell a story. And this is where you tell a story about, just the kind of thing that I do for people. Here's how I help people. I call it a who I've helped and how I've helped them story. Just so they can get an idea of, oh, that's what you do. Yeah, well, I don't need that now, but I might later. Or, oh my gosh, yes, I need that right now, okay? When you're building rapport with somebody, oftentimes you're trying to get them, first of all, just to choose you or your company to do business with, to represent them, to be their realtor, right? Before you can sell their house, you've got to sell you, right, or your company. This is where you tell those kind of stories. So in fact, this is so important, I'm going to give you an example of it here in a minute. But this is what I call a how we're different from our competitors story, to help you differentiate yourself from your competition. Right? Then you get into the actual sales pitch itself, and one of those stories is a value-adding story, like the Pig Island story. This is where you might tell a story about the property that you're representing at that moment, okay, to make it a more valuable thing, so it's not just a commodity. There are stories that you tell when the inevitable objection comes up. Oh, well, that's too expensive, or oh, that's just, it's not in the right place, or it's not going to meet our needs, or objections always come up, right? Your job is to resolve those objections. Okay? And think about what an objection is. An objection isn't a fact. An objection is a bad story playing out in the mind of your prospect, your buyer, right? They're thinking, if I buy this, it's not going to work right, it's going to be too expensive, I'm going to go broke, it's not going to meet my needs, I'm going to get fired, whatever. Bad chain of events is going through their mind, and that's the objection. You cannot replace a bad story with a fact. You can only replace a bad story with a good story. So this is where you would tell a story about someone else who had a similar objection about maybe a similar property, and either the problem never occurred, so they were worried about nothing, or when the problem came up, you fixed it like that. So either way, it's just not a problem. So that's a story to get them over whatever that objection is. And then when you got to close the sale, this is one of the more interesting types of stories I found. Several of these I didn't expect going into the research. But there are clever ways to create a sense of urgency through storytelling, so that once you've shown a property, for example, and everything looks right. Oh, we need this, we can afford it, everything looks right. But you know what? Not now. Let's revisit this in 6 months. Okay, that's like the bane of every salesperson's existence, right? I did all my job right, and you still won't buy or sell or whatever. These are stories you tell to create a sense of urgency so that they'll want to close now, and not 6 months from now, or 3 days from now, or 2 hours from now. And it's a story about somebody else who waited and regretted it, because in between the time you tried to get them to close and the time they tried to, something bad happened. Somebody else bought it, the price went up, it burned to the ground, something bad happened, right? And you want them to realize there are risks involved in waiting. And I just want you to go into this decision with eyes wide open of what these risks could look like. All right, so let me give you one example, and then I'm going to move on to how to craft these stories. So number 11, again, I think it's one of the more important types of stories anybody in the influence business will tell. So I call it a how we're different from our competitors story. So my favorite example of this comes from a guy named Sherrod Madison. So Sherrod's the CEO of United Building Maintenance, which is a commercial cleaning company. So they're the folks that come in and clean your offices at night. And when he's got a sales call on a new prospect, he always does the same thing. He always brings his sales VP with him, and they got a sales pitch they walk through. But at some point during the conversation, he always finds an opportunity to tell a story about what he does when he signs a new client. He says, because I always do the same thing, because there's a 30-day transition period between when I sign the contract and when my company takes over. And during that 30 days, I do the same thing. I sneak into the building in the middle of the night to see how they're cleaning it, right? Now, it's not as nefarious as I just made it sound because he gets permission to do this, but the point is, the reason he does it is because most of those employees are contract employees, and he's going to inherit them at the end of the month. So he wants to know if are they hardworking, are they well-equipped, are they well-trained, all that kind of thing. So he said, for example, last month we took over the Verizon building in New Jersey, and so 2 o'clock in the morning, and so I'm going into the building, and I see this guy, he's vacuuming the carpets on the first floor. And he's using the same kind of, residential quality vacuum cleaner that I use at home. And he said, what you got to understand is that those corridors are 12 feet wide and a half a mile around. It's going to take that guy a month just to vacuum the carpets once. He said, plus that thing's not going to do a very good job, and it's going to break down every few weeks because it's just not made for that kind of usage, right? He said, so when we took over, we put him into a triple-wide commercial-grade, vacuuming machine that'll do a much better job in a fraction of the time, plus that thing's going to last forever. So he said, so then I went to the second floor, and I saw somebody shampooing the carpets, and he said, it's kind of the same story. This guy was using the same kind of residential quality squeeze bottle, walk behind shampooer that I use at home. It's the same problem. It's just not going to work well. It's going to take forever. So when we took over, we put him into one of those, commercial grade riding shampooers, which again does a much better job in a fraction of the time. Plus, notice this gets the guy off his feet. Now he's sitting down, which means I have fewer workman's comp issues, which means my client has fewer workman's comp issues. He said, but the last thing I wanted to do, I wanted to see how they were dusting the offices. So I went up one more floor and looked on top of all the file cabinets. And he said, I saw the same thing on top of all of them. So I saw a half a moon swiped out on top. And he said, I know exactly what that means, and you probably do too. He said, those cabinets are 5.5 feet and 3 feet deep. The people dusting them, it's not like they were lazy. They just weren't tall enough to reach the back of the 5.5 foot tall, 3 foot deep file cabinet, and that's what leaves the half moon swiped out on top. And he said the truth is, they'd be better off not cleaning it at all, because it's the contrast between the dusty part and the clean part that makes it obvious that it's not been cleaned properly. So when we took over, we just gave them all these little plastic 18-inch extension wands so they could reach all the way to the back. Problem solved. Now, he could go into the sales call and say, look, there are 3 reasons why we're better than our competitors, right? We use industrial-grade vacuuming machines and commercial-grade riding shampooers, and we use these 18-inch extension wands, right? He could just list for them his 3 key differentiating characteristics, which is what most of us do when we're selling something. Here are the reasons why you should buy this. But he didn't do that. He told a story instead. And I hope that you can see that that story does a much better job of communicating the difference between him and his competitors. Because now that you've heard the story, you can see in your mind's eye, that guy riding around on that shampooing machine like the Zamboni driver at the ice skating rink, right? And you can see that person easily reaching the back of the cabinets with their dust wands, right? It makes a more visceral, visual, human, memorable, lasting impression than just listing the reasons why you're better than your competitors. So how we're different from our competitors' story. You probably need one. All right, now the rest of my time with you, I want to talk about how. How do you craft better stories for your use? And the main 3 things all storytelling experts will tell you need is a hero we care about, a villain we're afraid of, and an epic battle between them. All right? Think Star Wars and your Darth Vader and your Luke Skywalker, whatever. Now, I admit that sounds rather Hollywood, so let me turn that into more business-friendly language. What that means is the hero we care about, it's just a relatable main character, a main character your audience can relate to. Maybe it's another person who's buying or selling something similar to what they're buying or selling, all right? The villain we're afraid of is just a relevant challenge, the kind of challenge they're likely to run into themselves. And the epic battle, of course, doesn't have to be an epic battle, but the audience needs to see the main character struggle with something, or it's just going to be boring. Now, I've added one, obviously, because there needs to be a worthy lesson at the end, but other than that, it's kind of the same as the Hollywood movies, But you need a worthy lesson because in a sales story or a leadership story, you're trying to influence people's behavior. So if there's no lesson at the end of it for them to learn from, you've kind of wasted your time and their time. So everything else I'm going to teach you is going to be in service of accomplishing these 4 things, okay? And the first thing is a structure. Great stories have a solid structure, okay? Lousy stories are a rambling, run-on mess, okay? You need a structure. There are a lot of different structures you could choose from. Here's the one I recommend, okay? And I would recommend focusing on the questions instead of the names of the segments, which sounds a little bit academic anyway. So what I found is most of my audiences can relate better to the questions. Your stories need to answer 8 questions, no more, no less, and in this order. Starting with, why should I bother listening to your story? If you don't answer that question first, well, your audience may not listen to your story. And I'll show you how to do that in just a minute. But once you've adequately answered that question, you've earned the right to answer the next 5 questions. And here they are. Where and when does it take place? Who's the main character and what do they want? What was the problem or opportunity they ran into? What did they do about it? And how did it turn out in the end? Okay, now that should sound like the natural flow of a story because, of course, it is the natural flow of a story. But there's 2 questions left, right? What did you learn from it? And what do you think I should go do now? Okay, that's your opportunity to make a recommendation for them to go do something different. And by the way, that 1-page summary you've got, it's got most of the important things on here, like these 8 questions, okay? So let me walk you through how to answer each of these questions, starting with number 1, why should I listen to the story? Because some of the earliest mistakes I see in storytelling happen right here trying to answer this first question. And you've seen this happen before, these first 2 problems. Never apologize or ask permission to tell a story at work. Okay? And people do that all the time, and it just never works out well, right? And I've done it before too, and you probably have. You're in a meeting, and somebody raised their hand and say, "Oh, I'm sorry to interrupt, but can I just tell a quick story?" I promise, it'll just take a minute. Right? They apologize for it and ask permission to tell it. And what do you think that does to the credibility of the story, the importance of the story? It communicates that it probably is not that important, or you wouldn't be apologizing and asking permission to tell it. And if you don't think your story is very important, please don't tell it. Just Just get back to the bullet points on slide number 72 or whatever, right? But if you do think your story is important, just tell it. No apology, no asking permission. Don't use the word story, by the way. Like, there's a large percentage of the population. So I grew up further south than this. I grew up in Arkansas. And anytime I told a lie, my mother told me if I didn't stop telling stories, she was going to switch my behind. So many people, like me, associate the word story with fabrication, all right? Or, oh, you're just going to waste my time. So announcing you're going to tell a story before you tell it almost never helps you. Okay, so avoid that. All right, so how do you do it? It's very simple. It's just a simple sentence or a phrase that lets the audience know that if they listen to you for the next 2 minutes, they're going to learn something that's important to them. Not to you, but to them. So if they ask you a question and you want to answer it in the form of a story, you might say, yeah, you know, I think the best example of that I've ever seen was when, and now you're telling a story. Or, yeah, that's a tough problem. Let me tell you what I did a couple of years ago, the last time I had a client that ran into that problem. Now you're telling a story, right? So it's just a nice, simple transition into storytelling that doesn't involve a bunch of apology and asking permissions and making a big deal about it. Okay, then you're into the context. That's questions 2 and 3. Where and when did it happen? Who's the main character? What do they want? And you'll see some other examples of these in a minute. Question 4, what was the problem or opportunity the main character ran into, right? This is sometimes called the complication or the catalyst in the story. It's essentially the monkey wrench that gets thrown into business as usual that forever changes the nature of the story. So this is the moment that the pigs realize there's nothing but cactus to eat, right? Oh, that's a problem, right? That's the problem that needs to be solved. If it wasn't for that, there wouldn't have been an interesting story. If there had been plenty of food for the pigs, there'd have been no story, right? This is that moment in the story. So obviously it's important. You can't skip it. All right, question number 5. What did the main character do about the problem or opportunity, right? This is the heart and the soul of storytelling. This is where the hero actually does battle with the villain, okay? So as a result, this is probably this is the most important part of a story. It's also going to be the longest part of a story, all right? So out of these 8 questions, a significant amount is going to be spent answering question number 5. In fact, I want to share the first of 3 videos with you. And this is it's an advertisement, but I don't want you to think about it as an ad. I want you to think about it as a 2-minute story, and I want you to ask yourself, what % of the time in this story is it answering question number 5? What did the main character do about the problem they ran into? All right, give it a listen.
Evening.
Evening.
May I ring that up for you?
Yes, please.
Have a good evening.
Repeat after me. A.
A.
Then
B.
B. And C.
C.
A, B, C, D, E, F, G. No, not good. Not good.
Just the sounds that words make.
Cat.
Dog.
Calamari. Yeah.
Trash. On the beach.
Oh.
Good. Farm. Fresh. My son and I mowed the grass.
That's a gold star. Unbelievable.
Dad,
Hey, Tubbs. I read your book.
you read my book. Barman, give that man a belt.
So when I show that ad in front of a group of marketers, they tell me, that was the worst ad ever. It was only branded in the last 5 seconds. Yeah, so it is. But again, think of it not as an advertisement, but just as a story. Okay, so let's analyze that real quick. So the main character is obviously this older gentleman. He obviously, his challenge, the problem, is that he can't read. It turns out he's got a really good reason to learn to read. His son has written a book, but you don't find that out until the end, which is a nice surprise ending, and I will teach you how to do that in just a few minutes. But for now, notice that the problem is that he can't read. But that's not the conflict or the struggle. The struggle was him learning to read, right? Learning to read is hard enough as a kid, but it's super hard as a grown-up, okay? What percent, just shout it out, what percent of that 2-minute story do you think was him learning to read? Anybody? 80%. That's exactly right. 80%. Did you get my notes? Yeah, 80% of that story was him learning to read and failing and then learning and then you know. Just imagine what that story would sound like and look like if they just kind of cut to the chase past that. It would be like, hey, there's this guy and he couldn't read, but his son wrote a book, so he went and learned to read and he read his son's book. Yay! You know, what a terrible story, right? It was the struggle that made the story interesting. So this is not the part of your story to get cheap with and skip and cut to the chase. And this is the heart and the soul of storytelling. Now, 80% is a little much, but it's not unusual for 50 to 60%, 50 to 60%. Not unusual for that, for more than half of the story to be answering one of the 8 questions. Question number 5, what did the main character do about the problem? Okay? All right, so now you're at the resolution. Question number 6, how did it all turn out in the end? Okay? Here's where you do exactly what you think you should do, okay? You have to wrap up all the loose ends and, you know, did the hero win or lose and how did things turn out? It turns out most of my audience members don't have trouble knowing which loose ends to tie up, as much as they have trouble figuring out which loose ends to leave untied, okay? Because you don't have enough time to tie up all of them. Remember, these are just 2-minute stories, okay? You've got to choose something to not tell. You need to know when to stop talking. And here's my test. Does the audience know how to feel about what happened in the story? If the answer is yes, great, you're done. You can stop telling the story. If they don't really know how to feel yet, you're not done. You obviously have more loose ends to tie up, okay? But once the audience knows how to emotionally process what's happened in the story, that's when you can stop telling the story and move on to the last couple of questions. Now, I've got another video I want you to see because I want you to notice that moment in a story when you know how to emotionally process it so you know when you're done. So I want you to watch this video. Again, think of it not as an ad, but as just a story. And ask yourself, how did they know it was okay to end the story when they ended the story? All right, so I noticed we had a lot of veterans in the room today, and so you obviously get the meaning of that. So let's analyze this story as well, same thing. So the main character is this woman who owns and runs the bar. She's obviously waiting for somebody to come back. You find out at the end, you know who it is. This guy walks in wearing combat fatigue, so he's obviously been away at war, presumably. But what else do you know about that guy? Is that her husband? Her father? Brother? Ex-boyfriend? Just a regular at the bar? You don't really know, do you? But let me ask you this. Are you happy that he's home? Of course you are. And that is why the story can end, because the audience knows how to feel about what happened in the story. Now, Would it be nice if they tied up some other loose ends? Well, sure, like I'd love to know some of the sordid details behind their complicated on-again, off-again relationship, you know. I'd love to know what they did with all those beers they wasted, you know. But they don't have to tell me any of that because I'm happy that the guy's home. And that's why you can fade to black, okay? So tying up all those other loose ends often turns a fabulous 2-minute story into a lousy 7-minute story. Okay, so that's why you need this clue of when you can stop telling the story. Okay, so you've answered question number 6. Technically, the story is over, okay? But there are 2 more questions you haven't answered yet, okay? Well, the story's over. The storytelling is not done yet, okay? But the most important thing you can do now, after you've answered question 6, before you address question 7 or 8, is just listen. Okay, presumably you're having a conversation with someone, right? It's a requirement that you let them talk at some point, okay? This would be the moment. You've just answered question 6. They know how to feel. Take a breath. Let the audience respond. This is the moment that the story is doing its magic. Let it work, okay? What most people do after you tell them a story is tell you what they think of it. What did they learn from it? What might they go do differently? And that's what you're trying to find out. And people, human beings, are far more passionate about pursuing their own ideas than they are about pursuing your ideas, okay? What you're doing at this moment is pausing to find out what they learned from the story, because if they learned the right lesson and they're going to go do what you want them to do, that's far better than you having to tell them what it means and tell them what to go do. Give it a chance to work. Now, if it doesn't work, if they don't come to the right conclusion, if they won't tell you what they thought of it, you can always redirect them, okay? You know, that's an interesting conclusion. I thought about that myself, but I came to a different conclusion, and here are my reasons why, right? Or, you know, that's one thing you could go do after this, but I'd recommend a different course of action, and here are my reasons why. Basically, you could say the same thing that you were going to say if you didn't tell the story. You always can fall back on that. But in my experience, 90% of the time, if you chose the right story to tell, and you did a halfway decent job of telling it, they're going to learn the right lesson, and they're going to go do what you want them to do without you having to tell them to, which is far better than you having to tell them to. Okay? All right. Two more techniques I want to teach you before my time's done here today. Emotion. Okay? As I mentioned earlier, that human beings make those decisions in that emotional, subconscious processing part of the brain. This is why you want to have some emotional, engaging moment in your stories to engage that part of the brain. Okay? Now, you may say, well, but Paul, there's nothing emotional in these stories that I tell, so can I just skip that? I got the answer to all the 8 questions, so is that good enough? Well, yeah, if you want a good enough story. If you want a great story, though, you need something emotional in it, okay? Now, the good news is folks in Hollywood have figured out a long time ago how to create that emotional engagement, and several of those techniques you can use, too, in your stories. And I'll just give you 3 of them here real quickly. First of all, dialogue. People say what they think and feel, all right? People's emotions will come out of their mouths, all right? So your story should not sound like just a recitation of the chronology of events. This happened, and then this happened, and then this happened, and then this happened. Okay, it ought to be this happened, and then he said this, and so she said that, and then he said this, and then this happened, right? There needs to be dialogue in there, and believe me, some emotion will come out of that dialogue, because you're probably going to remember the most emotionally salient moments, to include in your dialogue. All right, the next 2 techniques kind of go together. Tell me and show me. Tell me is the easiest one. Just name the emotion. He was sad, she was angry, they were confused, he was proud. Name the emotion and your audience will get it, okay? Show me is a little bit better. Now, this, I don't mean act it out. This isn't an acting class. I mean, what I mean by the show me technique means describe the physical manifestations of the emotions on the main character, meaning what did their emotions make them do and look like and sound like. So instead of saying he was angry, which is the tell me technique, say he started yelling. Well, people yell when they're angry. Your audience will figure it out. Instead of saying she was sad, say she started crying. Well, people cry when they're sad, right? The audience will figure it out. So describing the way they behaved because of their emotions, the way their emotions made them behave, the face got all red, whoa, they were embarrassed, is a more powerful way for the human psyche to connect and engage with emotions than just having been told what they are. So that's a great technique too. Okay, last technique I want to share with you. The element of surprise. Okay, so it's probably not surprising to you that the element of surprise is an important component of a well-told story, right? You love a surprise ending in the movies you watch and the books you read, but it's important for business stories, leadership stories, sales stories as well, but for different reasons, and it's these 2. If you put the surprise at the beginning of the story, it just gets your audience's attention, so they're paying attention to you instead of the last email they read, or the next one they got to write, or whatever other things running around in their head, right? If you put the surprise at the end, though, it plays an even more important reason, I think, and that is this. It gets the audience to remember the story, especially the lesson that's at the end of the story, okay? And the reason why it does that is because of the way that human memories are formed. And they're not formed like a, like a digital camera where, boom, as soon as something happens, all of a sudden it's in memory. It's more like, if you'll recall, old-fashioned film cameras. You used to take the film to the place to develop it, and then put it in the dark room, and an hour later, pictures came out. So that period of time between when something happens and when it's formed in the human memory is called the memory consolidation period. That's what psychologists call it. And that period can be from a few seconds to a few minutes, to sometimes a few hours after that thing happens, while it's rendering, processing in memory. And during that time, it's vulnerable to either being damaged or lost or enhanced. So, for example, if you've ever been in a car accident or gotten a concussion or know somebody who has, you know that people in those kind of accidents often don't remember the accident, right? So, where am I? Well, you're in the hospital. Well, why am I here? Well, don't you remember the car accident? Nope. Why is that? And the reason is because the memory of that car coming towards him, or that linebacker, or whatever it was still in process when the impact happened. And therefore, the memory consolidation process got interrupted, and therefore it never finished. Hence, the memory's lost. Now, the good news is, if there's something that can damage or interrupt the memory consolidation process, it turns out that there are things that can enhance it as well. And one of those things was in all of your morning coffee: caffeine. Caffeine literally, physiologically, makes the memory consolidation process both faster and more efficient. Okay? A second thing that has, yes, exactly, all justification for that extra cup of coffee. Okay? One other chemical that has a similar impact is adrenaline. The kind of adrenaline that gets released in your body naturally when you get frightened or surprised. So a surprise literally, physiologically, releases adrenaline, which makes your story more memorable. So there's a very practical reason to put surprise into your story. It's not just because it makes it more entertaining, although it does that as well, but there's this practical reason. So you may ask me a similar question. Well, okay, that's great, Paul, but there's no surprises in my story. So again, can I just skip that part? And I'll give you the same answer. Well, sure. If you want a mediocre story, but you don't, you want a great story, so you want a surprise in it. And the same thing is, there are techniques you can use to put surprises in your story even when one doesn't naturally exist there. So I'm going to teach you my favorite technique because it's one of the most powerful. It's also one of the simplest to execute, and you can do it with almost any story. All right? And I'm just going to demonstrate it, and then I'll explain how it worked afterwards. Okay? So there was a young boy named James, 9-year-old kid. He's in the kitchen with his mom and his mom's sister. Well, while Mom and Auntie are sitting at the kitchen table having a cup of tea, James is standing at the stove watching the tea kettle boil. And he's just fascinated with it, right? He's watching the jet of steam come out of the top of the tea kettle, and he's got a spoon. He holds it up there into the jet of steam and watches as little drops of water condense on the spoon, and they trickle down. They drip into a cup he's got sitting there so he doesn't make a mess in Mom's kitchen. And he's just watching this cycle go over and over and over again, just fascinated with it. Well, eventually, his mother just gets frustrated with him, and she kind of barks at him. She's like, James, go ride your bike, read a book, do your homework. Aren't you embarrassed just wasting your time staring at the tea kettle boiling for an hour? Well, fortunately, young James was undaunted by his mother's admonition, because 20 years later, at the age of 29, of course, and in the year 1765, James Watt reinvented the steam engine, ushering in the Industrial Revolution that we, of course, all benefit from today, and all based on that fascination with steam that he developed at the age of 9 in his mother's kitchen. Now, the first time I read that story was in a book titled James Watt. It was written in 1905 by Andrew Carnegie. Okay? So it was no surprise to me, of course, that the story in chapter 1 about 9-year-old James was about the guy who would grow up to invent the steam engine. Right? But to you, unless you're a history buff, my guess is that was probably a surprise ending. And why? Because I didn't tell you his last name. Well, and the year. Okay, so here's the technique. I took 2 small but vital pieces of information that belonged at the beginning of the story, and I didn't give them to you until the end of the story. Presto, surprise ending. You can do it with almost any story. So question 2 was, where and when did it happen? I told you where, Mom's kitchen. I didn't tell you when. Okay? Question 3 is, who's the main character? I told you his first name, James. Didn't tell you his last name. So I I partially answer the question, enough to satisfy the audience that a story is progressing as it is supposed to, but yet there's something that I don't quite know yet, and I can get that at the end. All right? That's how you create a surprise in almost any story. And here's where I'm going to show you my third and last video of the day, and it's occurring to me as this is about to play that I think all of my videos here are advertisements for alcohol, so I'm not sure what that says about me, but I'll let you decide. So I want you to watch this again as a story, not as an ad, and ask yourself, how did they create the surprise at the end of the story? All right, so if this was a true story and you wanted to tell the story to somebody, that's not exactly the way you would tell it, right? You'd probably say something like, hey, so there's this buddy of mine named Dave, and well, he was in a car accident a few years ago, so now he's in a wheelchair, but he and his buddies used to play basketball every Thursday afternoon at this gym. So now what they do is they all go rent wheelchairs, and they meet him at the same gym at the same time, the same place every week, just like they used to. Isn't that awesome? Yeah, you know, that's kind of how you tell the story. It answers questions in the right order. And that's kind of what they did, except they didn't tell you at the beginning of the story that 5 out of those 6 guys didn't need to be in a wheelchair. You didn't find out until the end when 5 guys stood up and 1 guy did not. Presto, surprise ending. You can literally do it with almost any story. Okay, so, and it's often, you know, a story about you or somebody that the audience knows, and the ending of the story is, by the way, the guy in that story that made that terrible mistake, that was me. And I will never make that mistake again. And neither will anybody I work with, because they've all heard this story. And just imagine how much more powerful a story is when it ends with that kind of a surprise. So again, you can do it with almost any story. All right, we did not build in time for questions, but I wanted you to have that. It's probably on that handout. If you have any questions, I'll get to you. But I want to leave you with a little bit of homework, which is you've got that list of 25 types of stories on the top, okay? You don't need all of them, but I don't know exactly which ones you need. I told you the ones I think you might need. As homework, go figure out which ones you need, and then go start looking for those stories and use the 8 questions that are on that list to outline your story. Don't, you know, script it out word for word, because you're going to end up memorizing it word for word, and that's just going to sound terrible because it's going to sound scripted and memorized, okay? You don't want that. But outline the story with those questions. Add it to your repertoire of stories that you can tell at a moment's notice whenever you need to, and I think that you're going to be much more effective at your jobs. Thank you very much for your time today.
Wow, thank you so much, Paul. Very good, and I hope you enjoyed that. A lot of good information that came out of that talk. Thank you. I also want to tell Paul, safe travels when you go home. And so anyway, let's give him another round of applause. Thank you. Okay, before we move on to the next part of our program, I want to say none of this could be possible without our sponsors. We have some incredible sponsors, and we want to continue to highlight our sponsors throughout the program. And be sure and go up and tell them thanks for supporting Missouri Realtors. Home Warranty, Inc., Mark Emmerich. I saw Mark here somewhere. Where's Mark at? So there's Mark back there. USA Mortgage, Katie Otto. Where's Katie? And then Choice Home Warranty, David Spector and Britton Lenz. Thank you. There are several upcoming events that I'd like to highlight as well. Immediately following the RPAC Awards, which are up next, there are several social events. We have the LGBTQ plus Real Estate Alliance. They have a social hour from 6:15 in the Parkview 4th floor, so be sure and check that out. YPN is hosting What the Spell in Grand ABCD, 4th floor, from 8 to 10. I will not be there. In any spelling bee I was in, they would always give me the hardest word, and then the person after me would get something like fever, and fever. I never got those words, so anyway, sorry. But that's going to be a good time. I'm telling you what, our YPN, let's give them a round of applause, because they have some of the neatest events, and I probably will come up there, and you can give me a word to try to spell, but they're doing a great job. And then, where are my women's council friends? What a fun flashback total 80s party. They're going to be on the 4th floor from 9 to 11. And I'm just wondering how many ladies will be wearing those flash dance sweatshirts that are going to be cut off the... can I wear my white tube socks with, that come up to my knee? So, all right. And of course, we have lots of output group and committee meetings, but I want to call special attention tomorrow. We have a candidate forum from 2:30 that will be in this room, right? 2:30 tomorrow. So be sure and support that. Come to that. And then we have an emerging issues forum at 3:30. Daryl Burns and Michelle Walker have been working really hard, and they're bringing in some speakers that are going to talk about, had it right here in front of me, the cybersecurity, something I love to, we all need to know more about. So cybersecurity tomorrow, emerging issues. And then there's something else going on tomorrow night at 7 o'clock. But there'll be a surprise for that, so anyway. And I have a couple of surprise songs I'll be playing at that you might say, wait a minute. So we're going to have fun there. But I hope you'll come to that as well. And then, again, please show our exhibitors as much time and attention as you can. We have a great group of exhibitors. Now we're going to switch gears. Yeah, thank you. We are going to switch gears for the second half of the program. It's my honor to invite last year's RPAC trustee chair, Donnie Allen, and Kaylin Hubbard. He's our auctioneer extraordinaire, to the stage for the RPAC Awards and Celebration. Donnie and Kaylin, take it away. Enjoy your evening, and thank you all for coming, and thanks again to Paul. So.
Hello, everyone. It's now time to present the 2021 Local Board Association RPAC Awards. As the 2021 chair of the RPAC trustees, it's my pleasure to announce the RPAC Missouri Local Board Award winners, along with Kaylin Hubbard, the 2022 Leadership Development Output Group chair and in-house auctioneer.
You bet.
2021 was once again a record-setting year for RPAC. However, it was extra special for our association. 2021 was the first time the Missouri Realtors history that we raised over $1 million.
Woo! Yeah.
$1,077,071 to be exact, which beat our fundraising goal by over 14%. It's amazing. Let's give ourselves a round of applause.
And additionally, we exceeded both our participation goal and major investor goal with the record-breaking numbers. In 2021, we saw 11,584 members invest, exactly 400 major investors, which is almost double our goal. Additionally, we had 60 President's Circle members. Those folks will be enjoying a pretty nice trip to the Bahamas in 2022 for the RPAC Presidential Circle Conference next month. So because of all this and all this success, we will once again, for the 7th consecutive year, be bringing home the President's Cup and Triple Crown at the Realtor Party Convention. Nice. Pretty fantastic. So none of this, of course, would be possible without the tireless efforts of those in this room and everyone back home at your local boards. So we'd like to recognize the local boards that exceeded their RPAC goals in 2021. So when your local board's name is called, we need the RPAC chair or local AE to please come up to the front to accept your award. Then the rest of your members can meet Janet to my left, your right, at the backdrop for a super fancy photo. You ready for that, Janet? Super fancy photo. All right.
Boot Hill Regional Board of Realtors, over investment goal, over participation goal, and over major investor goal. Anyone from Boot Hill?
If you don't come get it, I will auction this off.
All
I
right.
will warn you now.
Central Missouri Board of Realtors, over investment goal, over participation goal, and over major investor goal.
Casey's gonna get his picture. You're welcome.
East Central Board of Realtors, over investment goal, over participation goal, and over major investor goal.
Nice. Oh, I'm gonna sell them all.
Anyone from East Central? Heart of Missouri Board of Realtors, over investment goal, over participation goal.
Well, I know we got some people here from this one.
Is that Heart of Missouri? No? Lake of the Ozarks Board of Realtors, over investment goal, over participation goal, over major investor goal, and over President's Circle goal.
I was just saying, you're coming down like you just want prices right.
Should I come up?
Ah, you can just go get a fancy photo.
Lebanon Board of Realtors, over investment goal, over participation goal.
You're very welcome.
Mark Twain Association of Realtors, over investment goal, over participation goal, and over major investor goal.
Congratulations.
Newton McDonald County's Board of Realtors, over investment goal, over participation goal, and over major investor goal.
Nicely done. Nicely done. Congratulations.
Northeast Central Association of Realtors, over investment goal, over participation goal. Ozarks Board of Realtors, over investment goal, over participation goal.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Ozark Gateway Association of Realtors, over investment goal, over participation goal.
Woo woo! Well, hello there. Congratulations, ma'am. I don't get to call her ma'am much, so it's my wife. So.
Ozark Trail Board of Realtors, over investment goal, over participation goal, and over major investor goal.
Congratulations.
Pulaski County Board of Realtors, over investment goal, over participation goal, and over major investor goal.
All right. Congratulations.
Randolph County Board of Realtors, over investment goal, over participation goal. South Central Board of Realtors, over investment goal, over participation goal, over major investor goal, and over President's Circle goal.
So, congratulations.
Thank you.
You bet. Congratulations.
Southern Gateway Association of Realtors, over investment goal, over participation goal, and over major investor goal.
Right. Fantastic. Hey, how are you? Good to see you. Good to see you. No problem.
Southwest Missouri Board of Realtors, over investment goal, over participation goal, over major investor goal.
Nice. They're having a good time over there.
Okay.
Congratulations.
Three Rivers Board of Realtors, over investment goal, over participation goal, and over major investor goal.
Congratulations.
West Central Board of Realtors, over investment goal, over participation goal, over major investor goal.
Congratulations.
West Plains Board of Realtors, over investment goal, over participation goal.
Congratulations.
Your turn, buddy.
All right. All right, let's give those award winners one more round of applause. All right, we're going to move on to some boards that went above and beyond in 2021 for the Local President's Cup winners. The Local President's Cup recognizes the local boards and associations that engage their members in advocacy efforts beyond RPAC fundraising. So in order to win Local President's Cup, the board would have to meet their fundraising, participation, major investor, and President Circle goals in addition to the 5 to 7 advocacy tasks of being a corporate ally program. Corporate ally program investor, 20% realtor party mobile alerts participation, 20% call for action participation, coordinating office visits with the RPACs, supporting a candidate through an independent expenditure campaign grant. Whew.
Way to work through it.
I had to work for that one. Or an issue through an issues mobilization grant, hosting a phone a friend campaign, and hosting an online RPAC auction. So these boards did some work. Ladies and gentlemen, we are so pleased to announce that in 2021, we had 11 local boards and associations win the President's Cup. So, when we call your name, we're going to have when we call your board's name with the RPAC chair or local AE, please come up to the front. You're going to actually come on stage this time because you're President's Cup winner. So, come on up stage, and then if you want to go over and get another photo, you're more than welcome. So, Donnie.
Please come forward as we call your name. Bagnell Dam Association of Realtors.
Well, congratulations. Thank you. Go for it.
Columbia Board of Realtors.
Yes, you have to come on stage.
Come on down.
If you could do it on your belly like WWE.
All right.
Congratulations. You're very welcome. Oh, yeah. All that.
Franklin County Board of Realtors.
These are nice. Congratulations. Oh, there we go. There you go. There we go. Going that way.
Greater Springfield Area Board of Realtors.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. We'd have to tell a good story if we pour some Guinness in
there,
this.
right?
There you go. Congratulations. There you go. They're getting pictures there. All right.
Jefferson City Area Board of Realtors.
Jeff City. Congratulations. Blake's going to get us a picture here. All right.
Kansas City Regional Association of Realtors.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, Kip's over here. Thank you.
I was trying to come to you, Jim.
Mineral Area Board of Realtors.
Congratulations. Got a picture. All right.
Up over there. Southeast Missouri Realtors.
Do what? You're very welcome. Rhett Tristan's there.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Nailed it.
St. Charles Realtors.
welcome. Congratulations.
Get it? I think they got
All
it.
right,
Thank
cool.
you,
Yep.
St. Louis Realtors.
The home team. All right, take it away.
Tri-Lakes Board of Realtors.
Ooh. Tri-Lakes representing. Congratulations. It's good to see you. All right. You're very welcome.
Thank you to everyone who made 2021 such a success.
Guess we give them a hot minute.
I
So we
guess.
still got- All right, so we're going to give just a few minutes to get some more pictures, and we have a surprise that not very many people know about. Some stuff we're gonna do that you're gonna want to stick around for. So stay tuned.
In the meantime, that reminds me of a story. No.
Derek is gonna come up and tell a story. Yes. No. Why don't we tell them cut the pictures and do pictures after?
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Whoa. Higher. Maybe. Yeah, how you get it sound?
I don't know. I think we probably need to. I think we should. I'm mic'd up, so I'm trying not to blast everybody. But
What'd she say to that?
they're opening the doors, and people are going to start leaving. Yeah. What are they doing?
I thought she went over to that corner. I'm not sure.
The cookies are in here if you want to mention. So the cookies are in here and they're bringing champagne in.
Cookies and champagne.
All right, everybody, we are gonna cut the pictures. We're gonna stop the line right now. So if you're in line, you're gonna be able to get back in line afterwards. We've got champagne, we've got some sweet treats, and we have a quick 2-item live auction that's gonna happen right now. So go ahead and take a seat. If you're in line, take a seat. So if you're in line, it needs you to not be in line. Champagne. We got champagne. We got cookies.
So what's the story with the cookies?
We got sugar.
Want everyone to sit down and drink them right now.
We got tickets to some events.
After we're through.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so once again, want to thank everybody for all your donations through 2021. We were able to make some big strides in 2021, which was amazing. And now we have an opportunity to start off 2022 with a huge bang. So we're excited to have a quick live auction right now. So even if you weren't planning on becoming a major investor today, that's okay too. You can make an investment for any dollar amount. If you hold up your camera, you see the QR codes on either side of the stage here. And scan that QR code that you see on the screen. You can start off to your right with as many investments as possible. Again, all you have to do is point your phone's camera to the screen, and it will link you to a page to make a direct investment. So, says it's reached its limit. Well, I'm so excited so many people are trying to invest right now that we have broke the internet. That's pretty, I'm getting firsthand knowledge here that we are upping the limit. Trying to. Not 100% sure what that means, but I'm pretty sure it means we're trying to fix the issue. So that's if you want to make a investment of any amount, you can do that. You can do it on the Missouri Realtor app that we just launched. And in events part of the app. Fantastic. So you got a couple different ways. And like I said, we're going to auction off two things. So where are our St. Louis folks at right now? We got all four of you. I'm excited you're here. I'm excited you're here. You've got your work cut out for you. So we have, how about 2 tickets to see Hamilton at the fabulous Fox Theater here in St. Louis. This Saturday, May 7th, 2 o'clock matinee show, May 7th, this Saturday. No, this is a Saturday. And people wondered why I stopped teaching. Sell real estate. All right, so this is a Saturday, May 7th, 2 o'clock matinee show, so you can stay and enjoy an evening in the city or have plenty of time to travel home. These tickets are located on stage level and only rows away from the orchestra pit and stage. So we have the graphics on the screen. You can see exactly where you would be. All right, so we are going to auction those off right now. So if I can pretty much see the whole room here, we're going to start at 200. 200 out of it now, 2, now 2, now I got a 2, now 2 and a quarter. He give me 225, 225, hit to go 25, thank you, 25, now 2 and a half. 250 out of it now, 50, 50, hit to go, thank you, 50. I got 50 here, now 75, 75, now 3, 300 out of it now, thank you, 3, now 3 and a quarter, hit me a quarter. I got 300 in the back now, quarter, 325, 325, thank you, 3 and a half, 3 and a half, 375, hit to go 75, 400, 4 and a quarter, now 4 and a half, half, hitting me 4 and a half. I got 4 and a quarter here, looking for 450, $450, 50, now I got 50 here, would you give me 75, 75, 500 now, 5 and a quarter, he need me 525, 525, 5 and a half, half to give me 550, looking for $550, 550, he to give me $50, I got 5, thank you, 50 now, 75, 575, thank you, 600, would you give me 600, 6 and a quarter, 6 and a 50, 650, I got 650 here, would you give me 675, that's how you bid, 700 now, 7, who'd you give me 7 and a half, 750, 50, he'd give me 750, looking for 750, he'd give me 7 and a quarter, 725, I got, thank you, 25 now, 7 and a half, now 775, 775, I got 750 in the back now, 75, would you give me 775, please, 775, 775,
Here.
Oh, that was close. Here. 775 now, 8, 800 would have been now 8, to give me 800, 800 would have been now 8 would you give me 8, I think 8, he'll give me 8 now, 850 now, 850, he'll give me 850, looking for 850, I got 850 now, 9, he'll give me 9, that'll way, give him a round of applause, keep him going, that'll way. I got 850 up here now, 900, 100, would you give me 900, but about to be a major investor day one. Thinking 900 now, 9.5, 50, he'll give me 50, $950, 950. Yep. You got 50 now, 1,000, would you give me 1,000, even 1,000, there we go. Would you give me 1,100, would you give me 11, 1,100 would be now 11, he would get $1,100, major investor, 1,100 would be now 11, would you give me 11, I got 1,000 here, looking for 11, 1,100, I got 1,000 on my right, 1,100, about to say the S word. 1,100 but now 11.
Anyone?
Oh, all in? Sold out here in the back. I can't see. Oh, yeah. There we go. There we go. If I believe need to see Molly, she'll get you taken care of. Thank you. Give her another round of applause. Fantastic. Very good. Now we got any Kansas City folks in the house? That'll weigh. That'll weigh. All right. If musicals aren't your things, we got you covered. We also have 2 tickets to see Kansas City Mavericks hockey against the Rapid City Rush on Saturday, February 5th. Check out these seats. I don't know if we have these seats, center ice, 3rd row, seats 1 and 2. All right, center ice, 3rd row up. It's going to be great seats, quick, convenient access to food and beverages without shuffling in front of a bunch of people. These are going to be fantastic. You're going to be almost right on the glass. So we got 2 tickets to see Kansas City Mavericks versus Rapid City Rush, February 5th, center ice. Who'd give me 200 out of it now? 200 out of it now, 2 would give me 2. I got 2 here now, 2 and a quarter. 2 and a quarter could give me 225. Think of 25 now, 2 and a half. Half would give me 250. 250 out of it now, 50, 50, 250. I got 2 and a quarter over here. Think of 250 now, 75. 275, I had to give me 275. Looking for 275. I got 250 over here now, 75. Looking for 2. Think of 75 now, 3. 300 would have been now 3. 3 would give me 3. 300 would have been now 3. 300. Think of 3 now, 3 and a quarter. Quarter would give me 325. 325. I got 300 to my left now. Quarter hitting me 325. Looking for 325. 5. I had to give me 25. 325. 325. Sold for 300. 300. Very good. Need to see Mr. Zach Brown for those tickets. All right, thank you all who were able to make a direct investment through the QR code, and to our 2 auction winners. This is a great start to another record year. Give yourselves another round of applause.
Before we end this evening's awards, I'd like to welcome the 2021 Advocacy Chair, Beverly Taki, to the stage.
So much. Hello, Realtors. What a fantastic year. Let's give a great applause for all the boards who did so much this year. As you all have heard, your efforts and support of Missouri Realtor Party brought in for the very first time $1 million. If you could please raise your glasses. Where are our glasses? Okay. I'm here to give a toast. I don't even have a glass. Are they gonna? Okay, you can raise your phones for now if you'd like. And let's make a special toast to all those who helped us achieve such a high record-setting investment. We celebrate our success in the midst of a very uncertain year, and we fully anticipate exceeding our upcoming goals next year. Let's bring back the President's Cup and the Triple Crown for 2022. So pretty soon you're going to get to raise your glass. I'll take one. I'll take 2. Okay, try to grab them as the cart comes by. How about? Okay, does everyone have their glass? 1 minute. Here. Yay! I get a drink too.